Do you want to talk about the POE, man?
I mean, that's what BadVanity came up to
I
talk
wanted to
about.
see what Matthias thinks about this way of running it. So you can ask the person that believes in omnibenevolence if they believe God is opposed to evil. By opposed, it's meant that if there weren't any countervailing reasons to stop something, he would. And by evil, then the person running the argument would just take the definition in the ethical domain, just to say that what you ought not to permit. Oftentimes, people want to respond with, like, some evils just guarantee a greater good. But given the definition of evil that I just gave, if it's some necessary evil to guarantee a greater good, then we ought to permit it. Then those are not evils at all.
What's the argument for that?
That's just launching off of the definition of evil given prior.
Of God's presence, right? So if we take that account of evil, because obviously you want to say that this version of the POE is an internal critique, correct though?
You said what?
Do you think this version of the problem of evil is an internal critique or external?
Perhaps external, but if you want to define evil a different way, to me it just sounds like it's changing the topic.
It's not changing the topic because this is like the standard way that, Catholics or even like Thomists would define evil, just as a deprivation of goodness, right? So if we understand evil is to be the deprivation of goodness, right, there can be certain times in which God is licensed to bring about this deprivation, right, in order to bring about the good. But it's still evil because it fits the criterion of evil which is established here, which is just that it's the deprivation of goodness, right? And I take it that the best possible world is a world in which there's the most virtues, right? I believe we're in the best possible world. God presumably would create the best possible world if it's the case that he exists, right? Because he can't do evil actions. So any action he does is good. So then it seems like he would create the best possible world. The best possible world is the world in which there's the most virtues. Certain virtues, you need to have the privation of goodness to bring about those virtues. Huh?
Yeah, I
believe
kind
this
of
is the best world?
that's a bit like.
Yeah, I think this is the best possible world, yeah.
What do you think about some intuition pumps that people try to give? Like, let's say there's a different world where there's 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever amount of children, like less, that get raped.
Yeah,
Don't you
I think
that those would be better worlds?
no, because in virtue of them, enduring this evil action, there are certain virtues which come about from this. I personally don't hold that there are these type of gratuitous evils such that there's evils which there are no possible virtues that come from it. I think for every evil, there's going to be some type of virtue which is comes about from that evil. Right? In virtue of this fact, given that the best possible world is the world in which has the best virtues because of virtue ethicists, it seems like God would instantiate a world in which there are evils, right? Because in order to have the best possible world, you need evils. Like, I don't understand what you're
Just to, like, are you saying just to promote virtues?
What happened?
Are you saying that because there's these evils, then people can, like,
virtues are brought about from those?
Yeah, like, people can actually compare it to other actions to say that they are virtues. That's what you're trying to say?
No, I'm saying that for any evil action, there's going to be a virtue that's brought about from that action. There are certain virtues that are necessitated by evil, right? Such as courage, right? You need to be afraid of something to have courage. You need to have, for compassion, you need someone who needs compassion, right? In virtue of the fact that these virtues are going to be the type of things which necessitate evils, you would actually expect to see evils if God wants to maximize the virtues and create the best possible world, where the best possible world is the world which has the most virtues, right? But in regards to the analogy that you gave, or this type of, hypothetical that you gave, I question that the constituents of your conceptual scheme or even track onto the true idea of what goodness and evil are. Right, like you can say that this is intuition pumping in the sense that you might perceive that world to be a better world, but I question that the constituents of your conceptual scheme there are going to be the type of things.
No, I'm not trying to give a intuition pump.
You just did, like you gave a hypothetical where you asked me, is it the case that this world's going to be better? Presumably,
just test your opinion on them.
Presumably, okay.
All
So
I did is test your opinion on them. I was just curious. It has nothing to do with the argument I presented prior.
Wait, so you just asked that question for no reason, just to get my opinion?
Yeah, just curiosity.
Okay, but even then, like, it just seems like the question there is going to be a malformed question if the constituents of your conceptual scheme are not able to account for the types of goods and evils in the world. So what I need you to do is give some justification that when you talk about evils and when you ask me these type of questions, you're able to account for these type of things in the sense that you have an adequate justification for your conceptual scheme.
You said what? Sorry, the last part.
Yeah, in the sense that you have an adequate justification for your conceptual scheme, sir. Right, because the acceptability conditions for a conceptual scheme are only, you can only accept things being embedded in your scheme if you have the feasible reasons for conferring those things upon your scheme, right? Because when you embed something, that's some type of normative status which is conferred on the schemes, sir. But even in regards to this type of, object level critique, I gave you some object level critique, and I gave you a meta level. Do you have a response to either one?
You said what? Sorry.
Yeah, I gave you an object level critique and a meta level critique. Do you have a response to either one? Because the virtue ethics talk is just the standard greater good theodicy.
Well, the thing that I was talking about was more focused on. Would you disagree with the ethical definitions, such as like?
Yeah, I disagree that evils are the type of things which ceteris paribus you ought not do. I don't agree with that definition. I take the Thomistic definition, which is just that evil is the deprivation of goodness, sir.
To me, it just sounds like it's changing the topic to maybe make the argument sound.
It's not changing the topic because this is the standard definition of evil, and that's been used for coming up on a couple hundred years now, right? Like if you just read Aquinas, you would understand that, and you read the Scholastics, you would understand
the Scholastics,
that
they
take this type of definition. Yeah, not only that, right? But it seems like if you're going to do this type of critique, you need to appeal to the theistic paradigm in the sense, because if I don't accept your type of normative framework or the type of framework where you take evils to be certain things, then it seems like the critique there is going to be one which is malformed, right? Because you're kind of shadowboxing in the sense that you're not actually attacking.
Well, the thing is, being focused on, it would be in the ethical domain, or how it's used in the ethics.
Yeah, I know. In the ethical domain, we have certain paradigmatic background. Yeah, I just explained that because the theistic position has certain paradigmatic background commitments which are needed, right? Which is just that evil is the deprivation of good. It's not going to be the type of thing which ceteris paribus you ought not do. Right? I don't hold that. So, if you're going to do this type of critique on theism, you need to accept the background commitments for theism, unless you're doing an external critique, in which case you would have to justify the denial of virtue ethics. Can you do that?
You said I would have to deny the denial of virtue ethics?
Yeah, justify the denial of virtue ethics, yeah. Like, do you think that if we accept the theistic background commitments, so I have a question. Do you think if we accept the theistic background commitments, it's the case that the argument doesn't go through in virtue of the argument I gave?
You're going to have to repeat the last part slower.
What did you say?
You're going to have to repeat the last part slower.
Yeah, do you think if we accept the theistic background commitments that I gave in regards to the moral domain, do you think that your critique fails?
Well, no, not really, because it's being focused on...
Okay, so what exactly do you deny?
Hold on. The way the argument that's being focused on, it would be under the definitions of the ethical domain. If you're trying to bring up some different definition that's not providing the argument, that's just changing the topic. Like,
listen, sir, I think you're kind of like out of your league here, so I'm gonna head out, but
no,
obviously it's still in the ethical domain. So I'm gonna head out, but obviously it's still in the ethical domain. No one's running from you, by the way. You're just trash, and this is not like a thief.
I'm not accusing you of running.
So yeah, I'm out.